about looking at the people that made history and explaining why they're important and telling their stories. Everyone loves a good story.
What skills were necessary for survival on the frontier?
We take things for granted a lot of times, but we have a different mindset. We want to be comfortable. We want good food. They wanted to survive. So survival skills were first and foremost. All their clothing, all their gear, everything was aimed at being able to survive on the frontier.
Oxen were used for all the heavy draft pulling. They were used to move freight. They were used to plow fields, clear the land. Any kind of work like we would do today with tractors, semis, skid steers, pickup trucks, oxen would have done. So training them is kind of a process. It's a lot of love, discipline, and consistency. And you build a relationship with them, working with them, with teaching them the commands, and just working with them consistently, like 3 to 4 times a week. And they normally take about 3 years to be trained to be considered an ox, but it's just a lifetime training and working with them. Okay, so all people, from the rich to the poor, had oxen. So it was more like horses were for war, for royalty, and were really expensive. And so if you had a horse, it was a lot of times used for military service, or your militia service, or for like going to church or the postal service, things like that, where the ox did all the heavy work. So it did the clearing of the land and farming and freight-wise. So even people like George Washington, he had horses and he had mules. He was a mule breeder, but all the work done at Mount Vernon was with oxen. And so all the way from here in the Indiana Territory and off of the west, they would have used oxen on all groups of people, rich or poor alike, because they were so cost effective to own. They didn't cost a lot of money to feed them, didn't cost a lot of money to buy them, didn't cost a lot of money to maintain them. So they were very, I like to say they were the poor man's power source, but the rich people used them too.
The top 3 forms of entertainment in the 18th century America would have been singing, dancing, and card playing, or early board games. The first circus that we see appeared in America in 1723, and unlike most modern circuses, it was just 2 people. It was a man and his wife. He was a fire eater, or a human salamander, and she was a Lady Samson, or a female strong woman. So we see a lot of these traveling entertainment shows of just small troops of people that would go through, not often, but just enough. They would travel with things like collections of curiosities, which were meant to be educational and amusing as well to audiences. As you looked in this tent, you saw a lot of other entertainments of the time, the glass spinning, the automatons, but as far as frontier entertainments went, singing, dancing, card playing, and the occasional traveling circus troupe.
A lot of times ladies would be wearing a petticoat. Sometimes they would wear multiple. That way, if you wanted to show off your nicer petticoat underneath, it stayed pretty clean. And believe it or not, a lot of it was layered. So, for example, you would start with your shift and then put on your stays for a lady. And then you would then put on your petticoat. And then you would put on what I have on is called a bed jacket or a gown, or like an overgown. And they would use pins to pin them on, because apparently buttons were not a lady's thing.
Men's clothing, it's a little complicated. There's a lot to it, but everything was designed, as is today. A lot of the fashions and stuff come from France and those eras, so it isn't always practical. You don't show your elbows when there are women present. You would never be seen in just a shirt. You always wear a waistcoat. The smock, the overcoat, is just to protect my good clothes that are underneath.